are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay, alongside John and TJ, and today we are joined by writer-director Bob Heckman and stars James Taffurelli and Catherine Mary Stewart from the Friday the 13th tribute film, Victim No More. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sanctum.
Thanks for having us.
I'm a little scared. The Horror Sanctum?
Well, it's a safe place. Sanctums are holy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're friendly.
Oh, good.
So, Victim No More, a 2012 Friday not 2012. I don't even know what year.
2012. You made this 10 years ago.
2022 fan film of Friday the 13th genre. I'm very curious how this project. We've all watched it this past week. And I'm very curious how this all come about. We all kind of know in the horror community that there hasn't been an official Friday the 13th film. Yeah, I know now there's a TV series that's been developed and supposedly going to come out later this year. But there's been like 13 years now, going on 14 since the 2009 remake, and there's been a lot of buzz. It kind of got in property, legal limbo hell, and so many things. At one point, Kobe Bryant was trying to buy the franchise.
Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah. So I'm just very curious what drew you all to this property and how you all met and decided to make a Friday the 13th film.
Well, that's a few questions right there that need answering. Originally, I was going to make a completely original film. It was going to be a horror anthology film a couple of years ago. But then I came across a couple of the fan films I saw on YouTube and was kind of inspired by like how well the quality of them were. And I'm friends with a couple of like Friday 13th stars that are connected with the movies. And I just figured, you know what? I love the Friday 13th franchise with a passion. And I said, if there was going to be one film I make, maybe I'll do a Friday 13th short and, see where it goes from there. So the idea kind of came to me pretty quickly, what kind of story I would do. And, I just pulled all my resources and started an Indiegogo campaign and raised the money for it. And that's about it. And I knew James Taffurelli through a mutual friend of ours, Sean King, who's the cinematographer. And Catherine, I knew for about going on 10, 12 years, something like that.
And I have to say, Bob, yes, Bobby,
Cathers.
Whatever you want to call him. He sort of introduced me to the whole Friday the 13th franchise, which I'd never ever seen before for whatever reason. I mean, the time that they were all coming out, I was like busy, I guess. And so he literally gave me the DVD or CDs or DVDs, whatever. And how many are there? There were so many. I was just like, oh my God. How many
together? Yeah. You watched 7 of them. You watched 7.
Is that how many I watched?
Because I said Terry Kaiser was in part 7, so you had to watch that.
Okay. And also, so he was doing all this, and I'm like watching these movies and not really knowing how the two would cross at all. And I was like, some of them I thought, oh my God, this is not good. But some of them I really kind of enjoyed. Like I always dig like the first in a franchise because it's an original concept, and I thought it was really kind of fun. very, very, of the time, definitely a low budget and all that other stuff. And then I think the next one that I really liked was the final chapter.
Number 4,
I'm,
yeah, a classic.
Great. Yeah.
I'm a huge, that's the one with Crispin Glover, right?
Glover, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
his terrible dancing. Yes.
Yep.
I love him.
His awesome dancing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, he's the weirdest guy ever, and I thought this was perfect. And I liked, Catherine Parks, who was in Weekend at Bernie's, was in which one? 3?
Part 3, yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that was
now
kind of fun.
So now we have 3 Weekend at Bernie's alumni
Hello.
in the Friday 13th.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
ours is a fan film, but still, it's.
I know,
Gotcha,
but I mean, it's sort of like part of our DNA or something. We have
Yeah, we
to
gotta
be
get-
in
we gotta get
something to
Jonathan
do with
Silver
Friday
in
the
the
13th.
So I'm curious, since you watched the first 7 films, Catherine, what was your favorite of the first 7? And were you surprised at all that there's not really Jason in the first film?
Right. I know. Well, I mean, I like I said, I think that the 3 that I really liked of all of them was the first one because it's a new concept, and then before 3, the final one, because I really loved Crispin Glover, and then the one after the final.
Oh yeah.
And then he's
The
up
one
in
where it's an
the 3.
impersonator. Yeah.
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 So those are the ones I think that I sort of enjoyed. Of course, Terry Kaiser was really super fun to see in 7 for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
But yeah. So I'm gonna stick with those 4 of the 7.
Okay. So what all actors and actresses, Bob, did you already know in the franchise, and how did you meet them?
The same way I met Catherine at a convention, actually, and just really hit it off with them. Amy Steele, the survivor from Part 2, and Kimberly Beck, the Trish Jarvis from Part 4, the final chapter. I became super close with over the years, and I thought, well, Kimberly's never going to get in front of the camera again, and then Amy was going to get in front of the camera for this film, but then COVID happened, and then I had to switch some characters around and do things. Originally, Catherine was going to play this character that I wound up cutting out of the script. You're going to be this, yeah. You're going to play this kind of when Robbie is trying to look for like a back way into the Crystal Lake area, because he's trying to avoid park rangers and stuff like that. Try to look for like a secret entrance. He comes across this kind of cougar on the prowl jogging by, and
that was going to be me.
That was going to be you. And when I wrote the role, I was like, oh my God, you would have so much fun playing this role. And it kind of cuts back and forth from like the couple to you giving directions and, history of the town and stuff like that. And in the end, it was kind of like, this doesn't really push the story forward or anything like that. It's kind of at the end of the conversation with you, it was kind of just like a name drop, like for a character that we never see in Friday the 13th Part 3, but we hear her name. Her name was Mary Jo Conrad. And that's a name that's somebody says in Part 3 that fanatics know about. Mary Jo Conrad. We always make jokes about it, the fans. Somebody that we never see. So I just thought it would be funny if Catherine Mary Stewart played Mary Jo Conrad.
The 3 names,
but then,
too.
yeah, it was just kind of like a name drop, little fan service thing. And, it would have been 5 minutes of the movie that could have been cut out. So I was just like, well, and that's when I said, well, why don't you come on and direct some things, direct some scenes and play Megan at the end of the movie, who originally was supposed to be Jenny. But COVID happened. Amy Steele didn't want to like fly out from Oregon. And, and I thought it was great.
And I'll do anything. So
Yeah, you don't do anything. You are awesome, and I love your wardrobe still.
So tell
It was
everybody
really
what.
super fun.
So tell everybody what Catherine's character, how that ties in to the franchise, because Catherine, although an iconic actress from the '80s, was never in the original Friday the 13th series. But there's the Jarvis, there's the family connections. You had a
Yes.
couple famous voiceovers that were in it, I guess, because of COVID, like you said too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Catherine was playing the character of Megan, who was originally played by Jennifer Cook from Part 6. And as a final girl, who, you know, as we know, final girls kick the monster's ass at the end of every horror movie.
Of course.
Megan, I always felt like
James.
she
Hey,
was
James.
she's a good character, but she didn't like really get, it was mainly like Tommy Jarvis was the final boy in that movie.
Yeah.
And Megan does some cool stuff and she saves his life and everything, but she didn't really get to like whoop as much Jason butt as the other final girls did. So I was like, well, this is a chance for, you know, Megan to have kind of a, you know, a bigger part of that by blowing his arm off at the end of our film and, you know, just becoming badass. So, yeah, so the Tommy Jarvis character is like the only characters that kind of like carried on from film to film, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And I always assumed that Tommy and Megan got together at the end, and so she would become Megan Jarvis and got married. And it would be Robbie in our movie's aunt. So, and yes, his mom was Trish Jarvis, who you hear the voicemail message at the end of the movie by Kimberly. And yeah, was there another question there? Oh,
I think you got him. I think you got him. So you mentioned the arm coming off, which is a really cool thing that happens at the end, and then you get all the different ladies. Can you tell who all those different ladies are that come in at the end and just whoop butt on Jason?
Yeah, that's I mean,
That
that's
to me, by the way, I just want to interject here. That was so much fun. I mean, those girls, they all had just completely different characters. And did they all create their own costumes and stuff and makeup and everything? And they were all completely different. They all had their characters down, you know, from some old sort of hillbilly lady to some like futuristic person out of like Robin Hood or something like that. I was, you know, coming just sort of not from the franchise and not really knowing these people very well. And I was just blown away at how committed all these ladies were. I was just in awe. I was in awe. And it was fun for me to come up with my little costume and everything. But I was just like looking at all these people going, what the hell's going on? This is awesome. And then James is standing there like, uh-oh. They were all like cartoon characters, but like,
yes,
again, these actors
like
were so
figures.
Totally committed. And it was really, I love that scene. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
The gal with the bow and arrow, the ninja, is actually my wife. The one
Oh, really?
Oh,
she took 3 months of archery classes to pretend to shoot me, and I'm like, you don't get to do it for real. It's not real. You're gonna shoot into a bush, and then they're gonna cut to an arrow sticking out of my head, and that's, you know. But she
once in a while she's like, wake up, James, you got to get up, and then an arrow will hit your headboard, you know.
No, I feel like no one day I'm gonna get out of line and I'm gonna step outside and she's gonna be there with the bow and just tell me to start running, you know.
Yeah, just don't ever take her up on a game of was it William Tell?
Yeah, William Tell. Yeah, I'd be watching my back if I were you, James. You better not like, you know, go off on her or anything like that.
I kept my machete, so, you know, I mean, at the very least, it'll.
She wasn't she also costumes, like the costume person?
Costume designer, yes.
costume designer, and she and I went out and bought lunch one day. She's awesome. Please
Yes,
say hello.
Catherine Mary Stewart was a production assistant for a moment on one day.
It was great.
Go to the
It
room.
was
You
so
want me
much
to
fun.
Pop her head in.
Yeah, sure. Bring her on.
Lindsay, you want to be on a podcast?
No, it'd be great to see her.
She designed a lot of the costumes that they all wore, and her and Mary Ellen DeVivo designed a lot of the costumes, and they put like this little symbol that's, if you have to look closely, but there's like this little S with a nail through it, and it's kind of like their squad symbol, like Survivor Squad.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, on a couple of their uniforms.
Interesting.
But
Yeah,
the
that was
idea
really
is
awesome.
that they all kind of suffered some trauma in the past. It wasn't necessarily like Jason that a lot of them dealt with,
Mhm.
but some of them, I feel, did deal with Jason in the past. If you see, there's one older woman with an axe and sunglasses.
Mhm.
In my mind, that's Chris Higgins, who was a survivor from part 3.
Oh,
Not played
okay.
by David Kimmel, but she's wearing similar colors to
Okay.
like that character from part 3. And she fought Jason with an axe at the end of that.
Yeah.
And a couple of them might be children of survivors. Well, the one that takes Robbie away, the EMS person, the paramedic, who you see earlier jogging by, she says her name is Amanda Shepard, which is Tina Shepard's daughter, the survivor from part 7.
Oh.
Okay.
And in my mind, she would have named her daughter after her mom, because, a lot of families do that. They pay honor to the one, a parent or grandparent. So
So a lot of thought has gone into the
there's a lot that happens in that,
characterizations.
the last 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. So I
That-
have to assume that you kind of with the name Victim No More and the kind of that concept of the final girls and the survivors coming back
Right.
to kind of get their revenge kind of thing. I have to assume that you kind of started with that end scene in mind, right?
I did have that scene in mind because it's something that fans of the series have always wanted. I mean, if you go to any Friday 13th page on any day, you're going to see people say, "Oh, I wish they'd make a movie where all the final girls team up and fight Jason."
Right.
It's just something that the fans have always said. So I kind of made a list of like things that I would like to see and try to like put as much of that into it as possible. But also the title kind of, it plays on that, of course, but also for the main character, Robbie, who feels kind of like trapped in a, world where he's trying to, sorry, I'm sick.
Oh, you're
We're
okay.
fine. So
Yeah,
we're talking to
it's
the
sort of-
subtext, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much subtext.
So much subtext.
Very
Yeah,
intense.
so for the fans who would watch this and would definitely make the kind of the Me Too and all that kind of connections, what would you say? How would that connect, if at all?
James, why don't you take this?
The Me
Oh,
Too.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, well, that's kind of what almost draw me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like playing Jason drew me to this. It's like, honestly, before we knew that I knew that we were going with the bag. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put the hockey mask on. And generally in the past with my particular career, like if you didn't know I was there, that means I did my job. So it was a chance for me to do what I do and also kind of act and perform in the same thing. But after I read the script, I did see tremendous sort of allegories to the Me Too movement, and specifically like the idea that, like, I hate to use like something like the Harvey Weinstein situation as a sort of comparison, but here's this monster that no matter how often he was accused, he just sort of kept going and kept going, and he was this sort of unbeatable thing until everyone sort of found each other and got together, and it's almost a way of saying, like, as long as we sort of keep finding each other, there really can't be monsters like this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to last.
Strength
gotta
in
band
numbers kind
together.
of thing.
Exactly. I mean, the one thing with Jason is that he's always sort of, you never see him getting bum rushed. You know, he's always sort of people off individually. You know, you know, you've never seen a group of people gang up on him before. You know,
Right.
That doesn't mean I didn't win. You know, it does cut out before anything happens. You know,
That's
I still have a
true.
good
There
arm.
could be a sequel.
Yeah. So
There is a sequel that's been laid out, and it will focus on the origins of a lot of the women.
Okay.
Oh,
Is it going to be a one-armed Jason, or is he going to regenerate?
I'm sorry to say that Jason is, you know, is gone in part 2.
Jason no more.
interesting.
Jason no more. But that's a story for the next time.
Yeah. Well, I am very interested in why you chose with this iconic character who not until the third film got his iconic look with the hockey mask, and you pay homage to that with the fake Jason that you think's a Jason initially.
Yeah.
And then you even have it kind of on the ground in a nice shot. But then you choose to make the real Jason in kind of the iconic look from part 2 with the one eye and the kind of the burlap sack, which is my favorite look for Jason. I think that's the most menacing, actually. I thought that was kind of a hot take. What made you go that route?
That was another thing where, like, it was on my list of things I wanted to do. Was I'm like, all right, well, every other fan film, I mean, we know Jason now as the hockey mask, you know, look. And I didn't want to just kind of redo the part 7 body with the hockey mask because other movies have done it. And I just want to switch it up a little bit. Plus, originally, when it was supposed to be Ginny, Amy Steele, that shows up at the end, it would have been a great, like, full circle situation since she was the first person to fight Jason and he had the sack on, and she would have been the last person to fight him. And but I think it was a matter of, like, Jason was feeling nostalgic. He was like, oh, maybe I'll go back to the sack. It's been a few years.
it's so
we all get nostalgic, even Jason, right?
Yeah. And he would have been wet and coming out from under. I like the juxtaposition of the zombie Jason coming up from, like, part 7 where he was, like, buried by the psychic lady.
Right. And I noticed, John, that you have part 2 and 7 next to each other.
Yeah.
Those are 2 favorite, and because those are the ones that we homage the most.
Well, I love 2. I love probably 1. I would have to echo Catherine. 1, I love 4, I love 5, and I love 6. 2 and 7 are great too. It's just I try to collect posters in one sheet. So, and Friday the 13th now is so rare. It's like any one sheet you get is like so crazy expensive. So, but yeah, 2, the, you know, Sackhead Jason, that's classic. So,
yeah,
John,
I just wanted to switch it up, and I thought it might be a cool look, a cool, different kind of look. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that was a smart idea to differentiate from some of the other films. I know John had some questions about the Manfredini score and the music.
Yeah, so well, first off, I just wanted to say the cinematography and the way you shot this, I loved it. That was the first thing that stood out to me, is just a lot of short films, you don't see them always shoot these things well. And this one, you really put that forth, like with the camera and the way you started. There was something about the intro and the way you laid it out. It kind of was like 80s reminiscent, but it sort of in a way reminded me of Jason Takes Manhattan. I don't know why, but there was something there. And I was like,
the same font in the credits of Jason Takes Manhattan. I had to, like, throw a bone to the fans of that.
Yeah.
The 80s montage, the, like, opening city shots. Which
the opening city shots,
Was that drone shots, I assume?
No. Those were, like,
on the ground, baby.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Catherine, Sean, and I running around the city all day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Did a whole bunch of location scouting. I did, and then grabbed Sean and Bobby and dragged them all over town.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
The opening shot, that where you chose, where it was across the the lake from the fountain was just like,
Right.
it's my favorite shot in the movie, and it's the first shot.
Yeah. It's a little salute to your mom, right?
Yes, yeah, my mom loves that fountain in Central Park. So,
Yeah.
and it just the way the water is and everything, like just how it pans down, you think you're in like Crystal Lake or campsite, and then it pans up and you see that you're in the city. I had that idea for an opening shot, but Catherine found the perfect spot for that.
Yeah, it was really well done. I mean, that's something you don't see often in short films. It's just the time and the effort into the cinematography and then the music. I guess I was trying to think about this beforehand because obviously Harry Manfredini's score is in the short film. I don't know the rules because I know with Friday, it's just like there's so many like turns with it with the legal stuff. So did you have to contact Harry, or was it fair use? Like, how does that work with using something that iconic?
I seen it done in some other films, and when it comes to fan films, and since it's like nonprofit, it needs to be shown for free on YouTube. As long as you put that disclaimer in the beginning of the movie saying that, we're not affiliated with, Warner Brothers and Paramount and the music and everything like that, it's okay to use. I mean, I've seen a Friday 13th fan film where they used Michael Jackson's Thriller music, like right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I think it falls into the category of like film criticism and parody, and there's some legalese kind of involved.
Right.
To your credit, as long as you're not profiting from it specifically through the way that it's being shown,
right,
on a streaming channel.
Yes, and so I just said, I'm not going to even bother contacting Harry Manfredini about this because he has scored some of the fan films too. Because and I was thinking about it for a second, but it just wasn't in the budget to and because he's an artiste,
sure,
he'd want to come up with a whole new score, and I'm just like, well, I'm trying to make it feel like the old films. I want to use the old score.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to have Sean King as a cinematographer who understood that I wanted to shoot it very old school style, very, a lot of the fan films now or modern films have a lot of the shaky camera thing going on, and they, just different styles that we see, which are great for those styles. But I was trying to bring it back to a simpler time.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was great. It's funny. I was watching with my wife Dirty Rotten Scoundrels the other day, the Steve Martin movie, and the intro. It's in that you see the water fountain, and she was saying to me, she was like, they don't really shoot movies like this anymore, where it's just the credits and it takes its time, and so I really was so glad you did that, just because that's something that the fans notice.
Even the opening credit sequence, not the city stuff, but when it goes to the opening credits, that's what they did in the first 7 movies. They would have your little prologue, and then they would have a little credit sequence where you're just listening to music, and you're actually forced to look at the cast members and the crew, see who's making this movie before we go back into the movie. I like to compare it also to the James Bond movies, where you have your opening, and then you got the James Bond credit sequence where there's, the new hit song and the crazy
which they parodied in one of the Friday movies with Jason.
Yes. Hold on, my new cat is being a troublemaker.
Oh, you're good. I did want to ask James too. So you played Jason in the film, and did you have a particular, because I guess everybody's different when they do stunt performances, right? Did you particularly watch a Jason performance in the movies to be influenced by, or did you just say, you know what, I'm just gonna try something on my own with this?
A little bit of A and a little bit of B. I mean, when I talked to Bobby about playing Jason, and we decided we were going to go ahead, he kind of gave me a list of like what he didn't want. You know,
Don'ts. List of don'ts.
specifically the Kane Hodder heavy breathing. We went for more of like a not breathing at all.
Okay.
And that costume was pretty easy to accomplish because I wasn't getting a lot of oxygen anyway. I personally have always been a huge fan of Part 6 and CJ Graham's performance.
Nice.
Mostly because it's like I was of the right age. I was probably maybe like 7 or 8 years old. I know, which is very I look at like my nieces and nephews who are still like watching Sesame Street, but like I don't know, maybe my parents my dad specifically he kind of hung it low and loose. He was just like, yeah, just fast forward through the boobies, you know, you can watch it.
Right.
So that came on HBO like when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, Part 6, and it was like the first one I watched in its entirety. And I mean, I'd watched other horror movies, but I was like, all right, I'm not scared of this stuff, you know. And I really, you know, we had like a little mom and pop video store up the block, and it was really just every weekend, you know, I would go into that section with the VHSs with the cool box art, and that's my Friday the 13th kind of love letter story. So
cool.
I tried to look at his movements a little more than maybe like some of the other Jasons, but I also had my own sort of ideas, and like I have one particular friend. I wouldn't call him a friend. He's somebody who answers my DMs when I send him a message. You know, somebody who gives me the time of day, who's a very famous creature actor, and I kind of reached out to him, and he sent me like a little kind of DM message back, you know, and was like, gave me some pointers on like that kind of character. And what I landed on is that, you know what I mean, and I'm not the first person to say this, but Jason is always sort of portrayed as more of like a force of nature. Like I'd say 90% of the time, he like when he first appears, it's raining, you know, there's some kind of storm, you know, some kind of inclement weather, which thankfully we didn't have because, you know,
Right.
we just had 100-degree sunny days. That's pretty much all we had, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I learned my lesson there. You know, just because the Friday 13th movies take place in the summer doesn't mean you have to film in the summer.
Right.
So I was just like, well, I wanted to make it legit with the trees and make it look like it's, you know, but 90-degree days. That's why they shot all those movies in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So,
9-degree days with a burlap sack on your head.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal for James with that costume.
oh
It was all rubber. I mean, it didn't breathe at all, right?
yeah, it was pretty much. I put on a set of Under Armour. They'd cover me in baby powder, and then there was a silicone bodysuit, and then the costume over, and then I called them the opera gloves. The arms that kind of came up, and then the mask. And the mask was treated, so it was covered in silicone as well, so it didn't breathe at all. So any air I was getting was coming in and out through the eye hole. Again, like, you know, I just had a few basic things like the breathing and certain sort of body movements and stuff that seemed to have kind of gone throughout. But like beyond that, it was just the idea that he's more of like a just concentrated rage, not the kind of like screaming alpha male rage, just like pure anger. And with that, there's like zero wasted movement. There's no shifting on your heels. Like if you're Jason, you're Jason. Yeah. You're not scratching your ass, you know. You're
he is messing with Robbie at the end of the movie, I think. I mean, I know, but you could kill him easily, but I think he's having fun with him.
But what I'm saying is that everything has a purpose, every step, every movement. There's nothing. Right. He's never like, you know, kind of doing these stupid things that we do just to kind of stay comfortable.
Except when he lost the rib.
Yeah. well, beyond that, it's like when you're in that much shit and you're acting in that much fucking prosthesis. Part of my French. I don't know. Can we curse? Is it?
Totally.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm just making sure. Like, you're really acting in a bubble. I had no idea how well I was doing. You know, I just had to kind of trust people, and then, you know, luckily when the movie came out, I was happy with the work. But you know, I mean, you try not to remember all like the stunt stuff, you know, and you kind of work with like things like no depth perception because you only have one eye, you know. And
right.
Luckily, the scene with the rib, that actor Joe Winchell, I've been working with him for geez, close to 20 years now, you know. So like we used to do theater together. I've killed him at least 3 times and other stuff, you know. So I knew that I could trust him to, like, you know, like, because when you do something like that, you sell it, but like it's the person who's in danger who has to kind of dictate the movement. So when that rib was going towards his eye, I was making it look like I was pushing it, but he was guiding it and stopping it, all that stuff. And I mean, listen, I got a problem with eyes, and that bastard, he touched that thing right to his eyeball. Like, I watched the skin in his eye kind of push in one. I'm like, you know, like,
wow.
when they yelled cut, I was like, you know, like,
Lucio Fulci moment there.
yeah. But yeah, no,
and that's one thing when we were editing it. Like, Sean and I were editing that particular scene, and I'm like, should it just be quick? And it's like, no, you got to stretch this out because all the other deaths are really quick. You know, like, you got to, like, you know, Fulci style, make it really slow, and you know, I'm like, okay,
that's a good choice.
Yeah, it's great because when I've seen other people watch it, you know, they kind of like squirm and kind of look away and everything, and I'm like, all right, good, then that kind of works, I guess.
Job done.
The only other thing I could say, the only 2 things I could say about that costume is, first of all, as I was saying before, they would cover me in baby powder, and then I would sweat it.
And that was just because you requested it, right? Because you like baby powder.
Yeah, no, it's just that it was in my rider. No, but no, because the silicone, you know, like, he would clean it and it would dry, but it was always kind of like sticky. You know, you had to, you know, it was just to help you kind of get in. But then I would literally fill that thing with sweat. And with the baby powder, the costume kind of, I have no nice way of saying it, like, kind of made its own gravy. There was this wet-based fluid that would drip out constantly. And then as the costume aged, specifically the hands would get these little pinholes, and like I would like go to point at something, and my whole and then at the end of the shoot, when I would take the costume off, it was a lot like the scene in Ace Ventura 2 when he's coming out of the back of
the rhino.
Yes. I mean, it would be a 90-degree, like, it'd be a 90 degrees humid, nasty day, and the second I got that thing off, you know, I'd be like shivering in the car, just like in like a tank top, because like I'd just been, you know, kind of that's my cat.
It was a ghost. The ghost of Jason's coming.
This is about to take an interesting turn.
Everybody has to show off their cats.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, mine are locked out. They can't come in while I do this. It's not possible.
It's that background, Jay. What is that? It's like, it looks like a church.
Yeah, it's just like a demolished, flooded church.
Which is our Facebook group, the Church Horror Sanctum.
It's just where I'm staying right now until I get back on my feet.
I like the records all over TJ's wall. It's nice.
Yeah, I didn't make them. They're all like old Johnny Cash records.
I like the Burbs poster. It's probably one of my, I'd say my top 5. That movie. I watch it a little too much.
Oh yeah, it's classic. I love it, man. Definitely.
Isn't that your favorite movie, Jay? The Burbs.
The Burbs is probably my favorite movie of all time. About Jurassic Park, and There Will Be Blood. That's like my top 3 right there. A little eclectic for sure.
Okay, well, I think that probably wraps it for our first bonus episode. Thank you all so much for coming on, and we will definitely share out all the info for Victim No More, the Friday the 13th fan film. Watch it on YouTube. I've seen a lot of these fan films, and this is the best Friday the 13th fan film I've seen.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You can watch it on YouTube. You guys have a site too, victimnomorefilm.com.
Yes.
I see a merch tab there. Is that something you're working on?
We've been working on it. It's a work in progress. The guy who runs my website, he is just trying to get all the merch up there right now, and you know, it's taking a little longer than I hoped for, but it should be within the next month. All the merch will be up there, and you can get T-shirts and beanies and the Blu-ray.
Oh, nice.
We also accept autographed Blu-rays as just Thank you.
I will send all three of you Blu-rays.
Oh,
That's
very
that's
cool.
kind of
That's
the
what
thing I
Kellen
like to
gets
do.
for not being here.
Anytime there's a podcast interview, I like to send everybody the Blu-ray. So
Very cool.
well,
We'll take it.
we're all fans of all that kind of stuff, so we will
do
take it.
you all three live near each other? Because I could just send the package.
Yeah, you can send it to one of us, just probably Jay.
Yeah, I'll message you when we get off.
Okay.
So again, go watch Victim No More, the Friday the 13th. I know you call it fan film or tribute film. Is there a preference there? Just tribute.
I like to call it a
Sounds a little
tribute
bit
film
nicer.
because I like to think that I'm paying tribute to all 12 movies in one scene or another. And I'm just kind of tired of listening to the term fan film with everything and how they
I
kind of
get
put it in the title. But yeah. So victimnomorefilm.com. Check out the website. It'll be on there with merch. And it's also on Vimeo if you're part of Vimeo.
Okay.
And yeah, YouTube. Get those views up so I would like to reach 100,000 views and then think about doing the sequel.
Awesome. Well, we'll help you
Okay.
get there for sure, best way we can. So go check that out. Bob, James, Catherine, thank you guys so much for joining us. You're welcome back anytime. So with TJ and John, I'm Jay. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.